Good morning, and welcome to the National Summit on Education Reform. This is our 7th gathering, and believe it or not, we've been preparing for this since last year's gathering in Boston. And I guarantee you that before I have Thanksgiving turkey next week, I will have an email from Governor Bush asking me about the plans for next year's summit in Denver. You know, Colorado contingent, welcome. You know, life would be a lot easier if you had one of those uninvolved board chairs who just showed up and read and did what you asked him to do. But that's not going to happen with a man like Governor Bush, who, when he was governor, used to have bi-weekly meetings with dozens of Department of Education staff to pore over charts and data and figure out strategies to improve reading in the state. And not much has changed since those days. If you want to know why we've been so successful, it's because of that kind of commitment. And not just from Governor Bush, by the way. We have an incredible group of board members who are passionate about improving student achievement and expanding choice. And I am blessed with a team of staff who believe that policies matter and that policies that are good, that are implemented well, can change lives. As I look around the room, it is great to see many old familiar faces, and it's wonderful to see new ones. This year we have 900 attendees from 48 states and 4 countries, and it's a great turnout. Thank you. I think it shows the energy and the growth in education reform that so many state leaders are here and are interested in learning about how to improve student learning in their state. You know, we're here because we recognize the preeminent role that states play, that you are the managers of your education systems. And our success is actually driven by innovations that you do. When states are willing to experiment and when they want to try new approaches and when they want to compete with each other to improve student outcomes, that's what makes us successful. You all stealing ideas and competing with each other. Over the next 2 days, our job is to facilitate an exchange of information and ideas and strategies. We have a great lineup of speakers and panelists. They will inform you and they will inspire you. I encourage you to exchange contact information, steal the good ideas, and take them back home. Be a Johnny Appleseed of education reform. The future of your students, your state, and our nation depend on it. You know, education policies that make students the center of attention are not always easy, and they're not always popular, but they're worth it because these kind of policies can enrich lives and they can change futures. Please join me in watching this video.
Steps into your backyard.
If it wasn't for the scholarship, if it wasn't for the school, you would probably meet me on the corner with a baby, trying to make ends meet. I would probably have a job. McDonald's. This is the school my 20-year-old brother went to, and he dropped out. My uncle dropped out of this school. My mother dropped out of this school. If I would have went to this school, I would have probably dropped out too. If he was able to attend, you know, a private school and step up for student scholarship, I think his life would have been much different. Like, I think he would have believed in himself more, you know. It's sad. It's sad.
12 steps into your backyard. Through tall green grass and into the wild.
I don't know where they would have been at. She stepped up for students, help them to get into the program. They've been doing real good, very good. Yeah, without step up for students, I wouldn't have made it.
is stable. I know that this is going to always be there. This teacher is going to always have my back. This teacher is going to always root for me. But as far as four-year university, I'm the first person in my entire family, not just my immediate family, but my entire family. So I'm making a lot of people proud. A lot of people are counting on me.
Promise me one thing, that you're going to be a decent little girl, and that you're going to do your work in school, that you're going to let nothing stop you, and you're going to go finish. And guess what? She come out May the 3rd from college. She's getting her bachelor's degree. And I think she's going to go further and step up as students able her to get all this good education. Yes, and I just thank God for it.
So please join me in welcoming Denisha Merriweather.
Good morning. I am super excited to be here this morning. As you can see, I am the first in my family to graduate from college. This year, I graduated from the University of West Florida with my bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary social science. I specialized in children and society, which led me to complete my internship in the Dominican Republic this summer. Being there really taught me to truly appreciate America. Next year, I plan to enter the University of South Florida to earn a joint master's degree in social work and public health. Hopefully, I will be the first person in my family to now have the title doctor in front of my name. But none of this would have been possible without the scholarship program, and you wouldn't have guessed any of this, all of my success based on my childhood. I was born into poverty in Jacksonville, Florida, and my life was always disrupted by constantly moving. I was into fights all the time. My grades were not very good. I was held back twice in the 3rd grade, and because of this, I was frustrated and I hated school, being older than everyone in my classroom. Too well, my future was mapped out for me. I would drop out and spend the rest of my life living in poverty, trying to make ends meet. But that didn't happen. My godmother heard about a tax credit scholarship program, and she signed me up. It allowed her to have tuition assistance to send me to Esprit de Corps Center for Learning. The school was the perfect fit for me. The small class sizes and the faith-based environment really helped me to push forward. The teachers, they challenged me to make the honor roll, and I took the challenge. The first time in my life at Esprit de Corps, I really liked going to school. I woke up every morning wanting to go to school. I graduated from Esprit with honors, and I took dual enrollment classes to help me go to college. I believe that it is our duty to give back to those who have given to us. And so when Step Up for Students asked me to help out and to get involved, I said, where can I sign up? And so I've been serving as an ambassador for Step Up for Students because I believe in it, and I believe that it truly helped change my life. And so it disheartens me when I hear that school districts and teachers' unions have filed lawsuits against this program. And they say that they are protecting public education. I don't know all the ins and the outs, but what I do know is that they are not protecting the thousands of children who have benefited from this program, children who now have hope. Children who can see a better future just as I had. I can only imagine where I would be right now if I didn't have the scholarship program. So we need to fight for this program to succeed. We need to not let 70,000 children be thrown out of schools that work for them. These are kids most likely not from your neighborhoods. These are children from mine. And although you cannot see them all, you can see me. And you can see what is possible when you give a child a chance, when you give them a chance to unlock their true potential. I implore you to stand up for these children, to take the power into your own hands and make it possible. There are many people responsible for the blessings that I have in my life, and one of them is here today because he signed the tax credit scholarship into law. And he was the first governor in any state to openly have the courage to stand on a platform for school choice. Without him, I don't know where I would be today. And I am grateful because I can personally thank him. And so I want to say thank you, Governor Jeb Bush, because you gave me the chance to change my life. You gave me a different hope for my future. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Governor Jeb Bush.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you all. Thanks. I do a lot of public speaking, and it happens pretty regularly. I had to speak after Campbell Brown at an event in New York once. Now, I think you've been trumped, Campbell. This just isn't fair. Denisha, congratulations on your life's journey. I know you're gonna continue to excel and make your family proud, and I'm proud of you too. What a spectacular young woman. It is the reason why we're here, to help people like Denisha be able to pursue her dreams. You know, it is a big struggle to reform our schools. A lot of people fight along the way. The unions fight, of course. The administrators sometimes fight us. Sometimes reformers fight amongst ourselves. That's happening a little more often these days. But when I hear Denisha's story, I know the struggle is worth it. I'm so proud that all of you are here to collaborate and to champion this work. Welcome to a really, really good fight. For those that may not know, in this room are hundreds of lawmakers, educators, and policymakers who have the power to make these choices possible for our kids and their parents and families. We need you, and we need thousands more like you, because it's not just to give a choice and a chance to Denisha. There are literally millions of Denishas waiting out there to be helped, waiting for us to push for policies, to give them a choice. That's what they want. They want a choice and a chance. They'll take care of the rest, and it's up to us to provide it. Because in that choice is the promise of a quality education for every American, and with it, a chance to strengthen our incredible country. We've always known the connection between opportunity and education. We've always known that the more we learn, the more we can be. But it took a lawyer and a future Supreme Court Justice, Thurgood Marshall, to connect those dots and make access to quality education a civil right. 61 years ago, he came to this city and he stayed at this hotel to argue Brown v. Board of Education before the United States Supreme Court. At that time, 1 in 7 African American children earned high school degrees. 1 in 7. 1 in 40 earned a college degree. 1 in 40. This was a legacy of an unjust system of separate and unequal schools, a system that stole the futures of millions of children and denied this nation the full measure of their potential. Marshall argued that unequal opportunity to receive an education was fundamentally unjust. And by his efforts, and the efforts of many who followed him, barriers did fall. But today, 6 decades after the beginning of desegregation, where do we stand? Our schools don't meet the high standards for all American children. For some kids, yeah, it works, but not for all. Too often the bar is set too low, and too little is expected of children who could do far, far more. While African Americans are more likely to attain a high school diploma than they once did, they are still far less likely to earn a college diploma compared to their white counterparts. Today, African American and Hispanic 4th graders read 2.5 grade levels behind their white peers. This is a civil rights crisis in every sense of the term, because when schools fail our kids, We deny them more than an education. We deny them their right to their potential. Doors close to them. They become stuck in a world that none of us would choose for our own children. And in case anyone thinks that this is just a problem for a few kids in a few urban districts, let's cut to the chase. This is a national problem. Students from higher income families do worse than their counterparts around the world. And the same goes for students in the middle class. But when we fail kids in poverty, we fail everyone. Children now in failing schools will struggle all their lives to get a job, to provide for their families, to achieve things that they rightly should enjoy. What is endangered here is not public education, but the core idea that defines America, what my friend Paul Ryan calls the right to rise. As educational opportunity becomes harder to attain, so is economic opportunity. Fully 70% of people raised at the bottom levels of household income earn below the average income for the rest of their lives. The Horatio Alger story is becoming narrower and narrower in America when it should be expanding and exploding out into our lives. For them, it becomes harder and harder to make a living and lead a productive life. Harder to start a business if they have a great idea. Harder to raise a family. Well, there's lots of reasons why this is, from stuff like tax policy and overregulation and not pursuing an energy policy. There's a ton of reasons why it is. It starts with an access to quality education, with learning how to read, becoming proficient in math, understanding science. Education is the great equalizer. Look, a math problem doesn't care whether you're born into privilege or poverty. A great piece of literature doesn't know if readers went to a fancy college or didn't go to college at all. The periodic table of elements doesn't worry about whether you speak English or Spanish or Haitian Creole at home. If you can learn something, it is portable wealth, and nobody can take it away from you. But if we buy the excuses, which increasingly is happening in the world that we live in today, if we let kids struggle, if we herd them into failing schools, how can we expect young people to grasp the first rungs of opportunity? That is why the challenge of fixing our schools must be one of the most urgent national priorities. Look, let's agree on this. This isn't just about saving Denisha and the amazing students like her. Education reform is about renewing this great country. It's about protecting and promoting the essential right to rise. We all know the challenges we face. Schools run by entrenched monopolies, more intent on serving the adults than the kids who learn there. A system that every year graduates millions of children unprepared for life and is never held accountable for that failure. A system that blames the failures of kids on parents, on budgets, on socioeconomics, on just about anything but the people who control the budgets, train and manage the teachers, and run and design the curricula. Imagine doing that in any other important American endeavor. We know better. Look, poverty is not an excuse. Look at the Success Academy charter schools that are taking the poorest kids in New York City, and thanks to a culture of really high expectations and accountability, their students are earning the best test scores in New York State. There are schools like this all across the country. Or take my beloved home state of Florida. Working with the Florida legislature, we implemented a suite of bold reforms, starting with the A+ plan for education in 1999. Florida went from a national failure to a top 10 state in education. Today, our low-income fourth graders lead their peers of every state in reading, according to the latest results from the NAEP test. Our Hispanic fourth graders do better than or equal to the average student in 34 states in Washington, D.C. Our African American fourth graders have advanced 2.5 grade levels in reading since our reforms began. We are a national leader in providing disadvantaged students access to advanced placement classes. Those in this room knows what worked. We have built a nationwide reform movement based on a set of proven principles. Of course, choice is at the center of our reform efforts, but there are other things as well. High standards, rigorous high-quality assessments, accountability for school leaders, early childhood literacy, and ending the insidious idea of social promotion in third grade, digital and distance learning, transparency for parents to see where their schools are getting better or getting worse. These policies matter. How we achieve them will differ from community to community. In fact, we have to make room for diversity in our thinking, even as we reach for common goals. For example, there is a lively debate about testing. I don't know if you've noticed it. Do we test the right things? Does testing promote real learning? Do we test too often? I have some views on these issues, and perhaps I might be in the minority some of the time. I believe that testing is critical. We need to measure to identify students and schools that are struggling so that we can get them the support and resources they need to help them improve. But we should have fewer and significantly better tests. States should make sure tests measure critical thinking skills, and districts should make sure local tests are used in a way that is helpful for the teacher in the classroom. My point is that we should be willing to experiment. We should always look to improve our thinking based on the evidence. That is why the debate over the Common Core state standards has been troubling. I respect those who have weighed in on all sides of this issue. Nobody in this debate has a bad motive. But let's take a step back from the debate just for a second. This morning, over 213 million Chinese students went to school, and nobody debated whether academic expectations should be lowered in order to protect their students' self-esteem. Yet in Orange County, Florida, last week I read that debate actually did occur at a school board meeting. The school board voted to make it impossible for a student to receive a grade below 50. You get 50 out of 100 just for showing up and signing your name. This was done, and I quote here from a local official, so that the students do not lose all hope. But in the International Report Card on Education Performance, students from Shanghai ranked number 1, going away in fact. Students from the United States ranked 21st in reading and 31st in math. The point is this: an overriding concern for self-esteem instead of high expectations does not get you to number 1. It gets you to number 21. So let's get real about this. Only a quarter of our high school graduates who took the ACT are fully prepared for college. More than half who attend community college need to take some remedial course before they start taking college-level work. 600,000 skilled manufacturing jobs remain unfilled because we haven't trained enough people with those skills. Almost a third of the high school graduates fail the military entrance exam. Given this reality, there is no question we need higher academic standards, and at the local level, diverse, high-quality content and curricula. And in my view, the rigor of the Common Core state standards must be the new minimum in classrooms. And so for those states that are choosing a path other than Common Core, I say this: that's fine, except you should be aiming even higher and be bolder and raise standards and ask more for our students and the system. Because I know, and everybody in this room knows, that they have the potential to deliver it. Look, even if we don't all agree on Common Core, there are many principles for us to agree on. We need to pull together wherever we can. It starts with a basic question. If we were designing our school systems from scratch, what would they look like? I know one thing: we wouldn't start with more than 13,000 government-run, unionized, politicized monopolies who trap good teachers, administrators, and struggling students in a system that nobody can escape. It would be insane if we recreated what we have today. So let's think and act like we're starting from scratch. Let's start with 3 ideas that I believe, if fully embraced, would create a surge in rising student achievement, which is the whole sole objective of all of the reforms that we're going to talk about over the next few days, so that more students are college and/or career ready. First, parents should have the right to a full competitive marketplace of school options: neighborhood schools, charter schools, private schools, blended and virtual schools, home schools. Children should be able to cross zip code lines, municipal lines, and county lines into neighboring school districts. Families would be given a say over their children's teachers and would be given the information needed to make those decisions. We would make it crystal clear that the student is why schools exist. They go first. Their parents are their advocates. and everyone else goes after them in the pecking order. Everyone. And that goes especially for the federal government. The states and local communities are where the best ideas come from. They have the capability to make reform happen, and they're ultimately accountable. So if the federal government wants to play a role in reform, it should stop trying to tie every education dollar to a rule written in Washington, D.C. They should make more programs like IDEA, Title I, early childhood programs, into block grants that the states can deploy as they see fit, including vouchers to enhance state programs. In my view, every education dollar should depend on what the child needs, not what the federal bureaucracy wants. Where the child goes, the dollar should go as well. When that happens, we'll see major reforms and major gains for America's children, and the federal government can go back to playing the supportive but completely secondary role it should be playing. Education should be a national priority, not turned into a federal program. Second, we need great teachers and treat them like modern professionals, capable of creativity, worthy of autonomy, and deserving of personal accountability. For decades, we've been treating teachers the way we used to think of assembly line workers. They get paid the same, they get treated the same, regardless of what they do, whether they do good work or bad, whether they take on great challenges or do less. That mistaken view belongs in the last century. If we have good teachers, let's pay them more and find ways to honor and recognize them for the important work that they do. If they volunteer to work with difficult students or in challenging schools, reward them more. And let's hire and train great teachers and help those that shouldn't be in the classroom move on to other careers so that every child has a chance to learn with an extraordinary teacher. Remember this, a student who enters a classroom with a great teacher walks out in the summer a full year ahead of a student who had an ineffective teacher. Finally, one of the key organizing principles of schools needs to be turned completely on its head. Right now we think of education, and education occurs when the amount of time students spend, it occurs based on the amount of time students spend in the class, not about the amount of knowledge that they gain. It's time to reverse that. Time should be the variable, and learning should be the constant. In effect, learning should be customized for each student, where mastery of the material means a student moves on to the next challenge rather than spend a predetermined amount of time in a seat. Today, this can be done through technology, and having spent time with my 3-year-old granddaughter, Georgia, one of the most incredibly brilliant people on the planet, who plays with a tablet like a concert violinist plays with a Stradivarius, I sense, and I think most of us get this pretty clearly, I sense that today's kids will not struggle with this transformation. Digital technology expands choices and makes learning personalized. Any of us can take a class taught by the most impressive minds in the world. Blended learning helps us reach every child. Learning is no longer bound by the four walls of a school building. If you're the only kid in your high school who still wants to study Latin, and there are probably a few out there still, you used to be stuck. Now you can learn Latin if you connect with a great teacher online. And if you can move faster than the rest of the class, or you need more time, there's no reason a technology solution can't help. A great teacher working with 21st century technology can develop a blended learning strategy that works for every kid. Look at what's happening at rocket ship education charter schools, or the Carpe Diem charter schools, or the Khan Academy. In fact, in Massachusetts, school officials use digital technology and blended learning to turn around Revere High School, which has a 75% poverty rate and a student body which speaks 27 different languages. Once an underperforming school, this year Revere won the Gold Award as the top urban school in the nation from the National Center for Urban School Transformation. Revere even has its own version of a Genius Bar on campus. There's nothing unique about the kids at Revere or at any of the high-performing schools that embrace technology. The difference is that teachers, administrators, and students were given every incentive to innovate, to use technologies, to transform the way teachers worked, the way students learned, and ultimately the way the school performed. That is what reform looks like in the 21st century. I want to make one final point. Education reform with accountability, transparency, and choice is now in its third decade. All that's been done and all that will be done in the future will require bold leadership from the people in this room, and I think we have an obligation to recruit 5 or 10 or 100 more people to make this room even more powerful. Abundant choices for parents, a 21st century teaching profession, and the full embrace of digital learning will require changes in laws, rules, and regulations. Most of the time, it's going to require a big political fight. Monopolies do not go quietly into the night. And the minute we begin to understand that together, the more incisive our efforts to push back to open up an antiquated system will become. Our movement has become strong, but our work is only beginning. There are millions of kids waiting for us, stuck in failing schools, and deserving so much more. Armies of teachers who know we can do better than this. So let's get to work. It's okay to be disruptive, but never lose sight of our greater goal, the future of learning in America, the future of America where everyone has the opportunity to achieve their potential and earn success. That's the purpose of this gathering. That's why I'm so happy you're here, and I hope you enjoyed the summit. God bless you all.